While wars are fought at borders, it's the economic strength of the countries that define its global prominence. India is once again facing incursion threats from China, but this time in Tawang region in Arunachal Pradesh. China has been relentlessly pushing the line at our borders, and India has been making strong statements repeatedly. But what about our economic relations? Just a few days back, India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar had asserted that India's relationship with China cannot be normal unless there is peace at the borders and there is no ambiguity in New Delhi's signaling to that country. But then on the other hand is India-China trade data. Between Galwan incident in Ladakh in 2021 and Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh, India's trade deficit with China has increased over 2.5 times. That means India is importing more and more and exporting less and less to China. India ended up paying China nearly $90 billion, according to Indian agencies. China reports it at $103 billion. Now the question is India losing the trade war with China? According to trade data released by Chinese Customs, that is China's General Administration of Customs or the GAC, India and China bilateral trade continued to boom, crossing $100 billion for the second year in the first 9 months of 2022, while India's trade deficit climbed to over $75 billion. That means China's exports to India registered an increase of 31%. While according to the Indian Commerce Ministry data, as a result of rising imports and declining exports, India's trade deficit shot up from $16.7 billion between the first half of financial year 2021 to around $44.5 billion in the same period of 2022-23. Whatever may be the source of the data, the underlying story is the same. India, since Galwan, has been importing more and more from China, and China is reducing its imports from India. This has given an opportunity to the opposition parties to take a dig at the centre's dependence on trade with a country that is termed as a threat to the nation's security. They are asking if Indian government is ready to walk the talk. Recently, the government said there are 3,560 companies in India that have Chinese directors. In a written reply to the Lok Sabha, Minister of State for Corporate Affairs, Rao Inderjeet Singh, said there are 174 Chinese companies that are registered in the country as foreign companies having place of business in India with the ministry. Now, what is India doing to curtail the insidious penetration of these Chinese companies? Although India is tightening the rules for investments from countries it may consider a threat, it has recently put pressure on Chinese smartphone brands like Xiaomi or Oppo or Vivo, who have reportedly agreed to export devices made in India to other markets, which is a move that could cut a major chunk of manufacturing output from their Chinese facilities to India. Meanwhile, it will be a boost to the Indian government's Make in India program. This is a major win for the government's efforts, as this would be the first time that Chinese smartphone companies have agreed to share their global production volumes with India, which they have earlier outrightly rejected. This could also mean there is a shift in the manufacturing strategy of these companies. Now, the government's production-linked incentive or the PLI schemes could also be a major reason why the three companies budged. These schemes offer manufacturers special benefits for manufacturing locally, something both Apple and Samsung have been enjoying. Now, if these Chinese companies agree, then it might appease the government as well, as all three brands are under scrutiny for their business and associated finances in India. But is a tough stance against China's sustainable economically? Does India need to soften stance to achieve its goals? According to a report by National Council of Applied Economic Research or NCAER, a think tank, India needs to soften rules on allowing investments from China. This report largely focuses on electronics sector, but it's true for most major sectors where India trades with China. Although the government has said that it has taken a series of measures to reduce dependency on Chinese goods and increase the manufacturing capacity of domestic industries and their competitiveness, We need to understand 2 decades of dependence cannot be undone in 5 years. According to the government, India's trade deficit, which was 1 billion with China in 2003 and 4, rose to 36 billion in 2013-14. Electronics, chemicals, medicinal and pharmaceutical products and fertilizers are reportedly some of the major goods India continues to import from China because, as Commerce Minister puts it, there is a gap between domestic supply and demand, and we need to accept this truth. Do tell us what you think about this video in the comment section, and for more news updates, subscribe to India Today.